Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Before I start, I have two confessions. One, this is not me at a podium. I'm a walker. So if I step away from the mic, I apologize, but I will use my loud voice. But secondly, before I go and talk a little bit about me and then hopefully answer some of the questions you have, I want to thank you for your hospitality and for your outreach to both myself and my wife, who is joining us in the back row this afternoon. Wow. We knew as we came up over the hill on 15, and I was asked this question with our colleagues in the foundation, what were your thoughts? And it very fast became evident that what's written and published is starting to come alive. And to pull into a community that celebrates Wayne State College, and then to put on our incognito clothes and walk around on campus Sunday evening and scare students by coming up to what's it like, how are you doing? Those type of things. I was refrained from looking in some windows for fear that it may be a residence hall, not an academic building. But you have a lot to celebrate. And if anything comes out of this process and the vetting that you are doing with all three candidates, I hope that it's a moment that you step back, and some of you heard me say this already, you step back and you pat yourselves on the back, because the opportunity for the next president of this college is phenomenal. There is so much here to build upon, to continue to support, and to really engage with. And so, give yourself a round of applause. Now, as my long titles have suggested, I have weathered the transitions of 3 presidents, and so I have had opportunities to expand what my background has been at Emporia State. We arrived there for 2 years of experience. We had every intention of doing that career ladder, jump around, and we are starting potentially our 19th year in July. And part of that has been the opportunity to grow and to broaden my experiences and my background. And so I have served both on the student services, student affairs side of the house, but I also had a 4-year stint as associate provost and in the academic side of the house. And so I hope as we have a dialogue, you can see that there's a little breadth of understanding on how this all comes together. But that's enough about me. I'm interested in hearing what you want to know and answering your questions. And so I'll turn it right over to y'all. Who gets to be the first? Yes, ma'am.
Well, the question I'm interested in is what experience you have in working with student retention and how you see what your experiences might bring to Wayne State.
Sure. Did everybody hear that question? Great. I have had the pleasure of working in enrollment management for the entire time that I've been in a vice presidential role. And so my experiences in student retention and student persistence has been based on a couple of really important factors. As an institution, understanding what is behind the numbers and looking at the data and looking at the programs and getting an idea of how and why we have the persistence rate we have, be it a good persistence rate or one that can be improved. I have a clear understanding, having been here for a couple of days, that you all have done and have some phenomenal data sets discovered, and you are deep into that process. And so what I would offer is, how do we build synergy across the institution so the right hand and the left hand can have conversations about what they're doing and partner in that. I'll use the example of the math initiative that you have going on. It is difficult in any institution with the skill-based students are entering in math. And math is critical not only to the general education of the students, but also many of the degree programs. And so, as I've learned about your math initiative, how is that being tied in with some of the initiatives in the student life components? How is that being tied in with some of the initiatives in the advising and in the course development programs? Those type of conversations. So that's one thing I would offer, is really being able to get folks around the table and talk about what everybody's doing. Because, I'm batting cleanup here. So I've had the pleasure of being able to have met with everybody and hear these great ideas and this great energy that's behind this campus focus on persistence and retention. You are all participating in the HLC Academy. That's a great step, because those are our accreditors. They're going to be the ones who help us judge on those measures. Secondly, I would offer the insight to look at how the community plays a role in the engagement of our students. The community is a laboratory for life skills and life opportunities. And so when students engage in your phenomenal service learning program, and I get to spend time with a student yesterday who's talking about the study they did with the Historical Society and how that was going to be used to be the foundation for some of the curriculum that their faculty member was going to do with their MBA students, that's a persistence component, because that's engaging that student in an active sense and in their active learning. So I'd encourage the campus to look at what kind of enhanced learning environments are there. And then I'd also encourage the campus to look at the day-to-day procedures and the day-to-day operations. I say to our folks all the time, our retention rate's at 73%. And I say to our folks all the time, 73% of our students say that we're a student-centered campus, and they experience that student-centeredness. But those students that aren't with us, that didn't persist, is our thoughts that we're a student-centered campus really a reality in what those students experienced? And did they run into an issue in understanding their financial aid award and they just walked away? Did they run into an issue in not feeling that someone understood how or what pressures they were under, they walked away? Did they run into, and this happens, feeling that a faculty member didn't respect them, didn't reach out to them, and they saw several others? Those different types of things. And so I would engage and continue to engage the campus in those conversations. I've learned there's no silver bullet. I wish there was. We'd be billionaires and wouldn't even have to worry about anything. But the tenacity of making that a priority and digging down is a very successful strategy. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Two-part question on behalf of the President's Council for Diversity. What does a focus on diversity for a campus like Wayne State look like? And what, in your mind, is the impact of such a focus on the quality of education for our students?
Wonderful. So the first part of the question is, what does it look like on a campus? It looks like a campus that discusses inclusion and celebration of diversity. It looks like a campus that looks within and has some hard conversations about what is it like to be an underrepresented student on this campus. It looks like a campus that listens to that feedback. It looks like a campus that works in their HR world and figures out how do we attract underrepresented faculty and staff. But it also looks like a campus that celebrates what is in the environment and takes pride in learning about each other's cultures and each other's backgrounds. It is as fundamental as an international student food night to a conversation about resources and services that are available to students both in the community and on the campus. It is enhancing international study. It is enhancing service projects in inner city Omaha. It is enhancing our ability to put ourselves out there and take some risks. What does this give the students? It gives them foundation in the world they're entering. It gives them an opportunity to understand, and if nothing else, a fundamental exposure. I will use an example. I had the joyous pleasure, now that it's over, traveling internationally with 18 undergraduates to developing Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And it struck me immediately, no matter how much we pride on students learning until they got into an environment where they were called pushy Americans, where they didn't understand the culture of the change goes on the dish, don't you dare put your hand out and grab the change. When they understood that they rode through some post-Soviet housing that scared them to death, but that they met with people and they understood, boy, there's a lot here that's similar. And these are the folks we're going to be interacting with as they take care of us in our environment. The country is having conversations. The country is having violence. And those are conversations by virtue of an institution we need to be prepared to be discussing. And sometimes those are what I call those surprise curricular moments that come up in the classroom. And we need to understand that students may ask, how does what's happening in Baltimore right now connect with what's happening in Wayne, Nebraska, or where I'm going as I graduate? And so I think celebration, understanding, inclusion, but then realizing it's part of that student learning experience and it's part of the foundation they bring with them. Next. Yes?
Our deans have a very unique role on campus in serving as liaisons between department chairs, faculty, and also vice president and president. I'm wondering if you could share with us your thoughts just on the role of tenure with respect to deans.
I know where that question's coming from. My response is this. One, I think when you get to an administrative level, I think you have an opportunity to make change. I understand the importance of tenure. I have tenure and associate professor title, and I earned it. It wasn't because I became a vice president. So I went through the faculty vetting and did I have enough resources? You know, you can imagine as vice president, I had service covered. That was not the worry. But I think part of what we need to look at is why is that fear that if there's not tenure in that position, failure is going to happen. And that would be the conversation I would have in trying to gain an understanding of what does this mean in the context of you being successful or being a failure. And I would want to create an environment where that fear should not be part of what I consider a day-to-day dialogue of an institution. And so that's my thoughts on that one. Other questions? Thought I saw movement. Yes, sir.
Hello again.
Hello.
Michael Anderson, Vice
Yeah.
President for Academic Affairs. I wondered if you could share with the group your experiences working with satellite campuses.
Sure. I have had at times the pleasure and at times the why did we do this opportunity to work with our Metro Learning Center in Kansas City. Two things have really been a focus in that experience. One, really having a basis for why are we doing that? And if we're going to do that, making it a commitment through the strategic plan and through the master plan and through the enrollment management plan and through the foundation plan of the campus, so that that is a conscious component of it. But I've also had to look at funding mechanisms, tuition rates for those centers. We've had to look at programs that we have in those centers. We've had to look at how do we either broaden the faculty base, or how do we engage a different faculty in those environments? And we've had to have some heart-to-heart conversations with our feeders into those environments. And so as we've built relationships, my experiences have been sitting with colleagues at community colleges and articulating the curriculum to the T, so that the student that's going to have that program at that center can seamlessly move into that program, and in the parent's mind and in the taxpayer's mind, not waste time in repeating curriculum. Now, those conversations have been very frank. If our faculty did not feel that the community college faculty had the ability to teach those courses, then there was a trade-out, and that course may have been taught in the curriculum coming into the four-year institution, and the two-year institution taught a different course. But that's been fundamental, is in communicating a program there. What's been more of a challenge, frankly, is offering a program in a manner in which the student can continue in a full-time fashion. Our programs that have been successful, the faculty have been behind offering 12 hours in a course sequencing at that site. Our programs that have struggled, the faculty have held the line that there should not be anybody in this environment that can handle more than 9 hours a semester. Well, those programs aren't happening there anymore, and that enrollment in that department has decreased. And the resources have allocated and shifted to the programs that in that sense can make that successful. But those programs and those satellite campuses have to continually be renewed and reviewed and commitment made to them, or there needs to be conversations about what's the next step, what's best in that environment. And so I understand that conversations will happen rather fast with the new president on what is the future of South Sioux City, how is that going to be addressed. I candidly think it is a phenomenal opportunity. But does it mean that we need to look at resources and some enhanced marketing and look at how we build that synergy? Probably so. And we're going to have those conversations and come to some conclusions and then implement.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I don't get a hand, I'm going to ask a question.
Mike Wicke, Director of Athletics. Just curious on what your belief the role intercollegiate athletics plays, specifically Division II intercollegiate athletic plays in a campus such as Wayne State.
Sure. That's a great question. The role of intercollegiate athletics in a Division II campus. Different than Division I, we call them student athletes. And that's an important distinction. They are students and they are athletes. There's a multiple number of roles that athletics plays. Let's face it, it's fun. That's an important component. It is an engagement opportunity for the campus and the community. That is an important component. Now, let's take a little gander at the athletics here at Wayne. You all see the GPA of the student athletes? Pretty high. You all see the persistence, graduation rates of the student athletes? A little higher than the average campus. So as you look at those things, there's an opportunity to role model in a peer-to-peer environment. Some of the conversations I have with athletes, I meet with all of our new student athletes at the start of each fall season. The coaches bring me down. We have some heart-to-hearts. We talk about behavior. We talk about expectations. But we talk about life in the fishbowl. And if you want students at your games, don't act like an idiot in the residence halls. And if you want students to respect you, participate in the campus. That's an easy sell in D2 athletics. But I think as an entity and as an identification, it is there, and I think it's an opportunity that you capitalize on in enthusiasm, momentum, energy, and celebration. You have a really strong women's basketball team. I was a little bit worried. But rest assured, we knocked off Fort Hayes. We didn't fare so well in the past in volleyball. But the strength of the athletic program really ties into some of the energy and the enthusiasm, getting the donors back, and getting the alums back, and getting the campus to be able to tell about what's going on and celebrate the institution. Same measure, I think we have to continue to be supportive and appreciative of our arts and our performances and all of those opportunities. I have the privilege when we bring in new classes of students at Emporia to meet with the students. And one of my messages to them is take these next 4 years, I never say 5, but a few of them I'm looking at thinking maybe 6. But take these next 4 years and be the most selfish individual you can with the institution that you are engaging in. Because you know what? You don't get the 4 years back. And you don't have the plethora of opportunities to be exposed to new things during any other period of your life. And so as I learned today, I'm still fascinated by the piano story about putting one of the pianos here on stage and piping in Elton John and the piano playing Elton John. That's a phenomenal story of technology, innovation, and it's just kind of plain darn fun. But athletics, theater, all of those co-curricular engagement opportunities really are a chance for us to highlight our students and highlight the success that they bring to the institution. And are moments to be celebrated. You see an athlete who's gotten hurt on the field during play. I hope the culture, someone sends them a card. Just, hey, thanks for giving it all. Those type of things. But celebrating those opportunities for our students. Another question. Yes, ma'am.
I work with institutional accreditation across the campus, and we will receive.
God bless you, by the way.
We will receive in a couple of weeks that we are being reaffirmed, so that's
Congratulations.
Yes, yes. And we will be getting a new pathway. So what's your experience with that, and how would you guide that?
Sure. So my experience with accreditation. Today is the anniversary of 1 month since the departure of the Higher Learning Commission from the campus of Emporia State University. And in those 3 days, I am not going to lie, we told some lies. The first lie was, we're so excited to have you on campus. The second lie was, we're so sad to see you go. We've come off of peak, which is the 10-year process, no in-between reviews, etc. Now, I understand that you have just been evaluated through AQUIP. And Dr. Anderson and I had a conversation about this because that was one of the questions I had, having just been immersed in this world. And then, I don't wish this on my enemy, the next day getting on the plane and flying to Chicago to HLC. Didn't really pay attention that first day. But as and I think where you're at and what I've seen, and where I say this is I've heard conversations about assessment. And I'm going to brag on y'all a little bit. You're light years ahead of some of the institutions I've interacted with. As I've heard you talk about assessment, one of the questions that I did ask is AQUIP versus the open pathways. Because if you're not familiar, the open pathways now, I would never recommend standards once and then 10 years later. I wouldn't recommend that. But if you've been functioning for a number of years at AQUIP, you have a pattern of checks and balances already set with your assessments. And so to move into the Open Pathways program, you have a 4-year block, there's an electronic review. You get to add a project or an initiative or something that as a campus we choose to say, this is something that we're going to highlight and we're going to build upon, but we're going to put it out there so that we have some external eyes looking at this over this window of 4 years, going in at year 4, and then it kind of culminates towards year 8, and you're assessed on your standard operations on years 1 through 10. And so the dangerously little I know, and from what I've heard, it would clearly be at the directive of the academic VP and the deans and you folks, but I wouldn't be standing there going, oh, bad move. Because I think you may be ready. I think you may have a structure in place that you can take those next steps. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, my turn. Give me 3 distinctive features of Wayne that you want the next president to articulate. That's a filler. If there's other questions, I would gladly take them. Come on.
I think one is our open enrollment mission, and if I remember the numbers, I may not be completely current, but something like 2/3 of our students are first-generation college students, or at least neither parent has a degree. And while that often leads to challenges in student readiness, I think it's a good mission, and it's a place where people can come to do something no one else in their family has done, and to change their lives.
Thank
I
you.
think that's one.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I think faculty and staff are passionate about their work. I think it's a very engaged community of people, and we don't always agree on everything, and sometimes we have conflict here and there, but I think everybody's intensely passionate about the life of this institution and what it means to the people that pass through it.
That has been truly proven in my minimal engagement in time here. Another distinction,
Affordability.
affordability.
Although it's no longer the $14 a credit hour it was when I was a student. It is affordable.
Awesome, awesome.
That
Yes.
was in the 20s.
When I talk in admissions, especially to the students from Wayne, which can be kind of a hard sell to make, I usually break it down to size and opportunity, but I'll focus on opportunity. When I talk about opportunity, I talk about the variety of programs we have, some of the success we have in some of those programs, unique things like RHOP or NENTA, the honors program. I was an honors student, so while we are open enrollment, there's still opportunities here for students who are at a high academic level to stay challenged, to stay active, to get a good education while they're here. And I add cost into opportunity because I think better than saying, we're super affordable, you can say that our cost allows you an opportunity when you leave college to not be super focused on student loans because maybe you have the opportunity to receive an affordable education here.
Value added to the engagement with the institution. It's affordable, I'm not going to lie. It's still 40,000 plus that a typical family may look at and think in a commitment sense. And 98% placement rate. Ooh, there's a distinctiveness. Opportunity in the programs. My institution I'm currently at is very similar in how we admit students. And I can tell you that there have been students that have come in on paper, 14 ACT, 2.0, and I've said to our admissions director, why did we admit those students? But the list of references that come and supplement from faculty, from community members, more than once I've been proven wrong when they've graduated summa cum laude in dual degree. It's the support and the engagement those students had. And to go back to the persistence question, we have to think about our populations in different mindsets. I am fairly certain, simply because we have kind of the same pattern, that our retention rate for high-performing students can improve, moderate students coming in can improve, and low-end students coming in, quote-unquote, can improve. But sometimes we make this colossal mistake in the academy of forgetting the moderate kids and not thinking about the high-end kids. And that would be something, as we look at the campus conversations, the patterning data across the academic levels and ability of the students. Because maybe very, very different factors in creating that persistence measure. Wonderful.
I have a question for
Yes.
you. My name is Michael Merrick. I'm a mass communication faculty member. Kind of this question flows out of my journalism background. There is a tension at Wayne State College. On one side, you have faculty and staff, and on the other side, you have the state board office in Lincoln. And I think if you, and you may have already come across this, if you talk to faculty here, you will find that a lot of faculty are concerned about the board office, about loss of local, and by local I mean college level control, and erosion of shared governance and things like that. Whoever the new president is going to step into that, and I compare it to Henry Kissinger's shuttle diplomacy of, you know, being in the middle between those two parties. How would you function in that situation, or how would you cope?
How would I cope and how would I function? I'm going to be very frank in my answer. That's the New Englander in me coming out. I think we've got to draw a line in the sand, and this is the new president's administration. So let's sit down and figure out what's causing the concern. Is it something internally that the information is not getting out? Is it something that the president has to enhance in communication to the system? Is it spending time with system folks on the campus, learning about the environment? But we've got to get to the root of the, I don't want to play in the same sandbox. I think it's an important conversation to have. I think it's a necessary conversation to have. As the president of a university, shared governance is within the capital of the institution. I don't come in and tell the faculty how to teach, create your curriculum, all of those different types of things. But I do say, if we're going to be looking at our mission, if we're going to be looking at our strategic plan, I want to see what the academic strategic plan is. I want to know where enhancements are necessary, where reallocations may be necessary, and how we approach that so that in equal voice across strategic planning, infrastructure is addressed, academic programming is addressed, student learning outcomes are addressed, enrollment opportunities are addressed, and we put that into that bundle. Then my responsibility is to take the voice of the faculty and make sure that I'm able to articulate with the system, these are some of the opportunities and challenges we're seeing on the campus. By the same token, I need to be able to take the voice of the system early when there are questions or concerns and get that back to the campus through the wonderful vice presidents and the governance systems here so that can be vetted. None of us, myself included as the president, may not at some point get the decision I want. But I have to be able to have the assurances that the varying voices were listened to, and there has to be the trust built that that message was brought forward. So I don't have a magic component, but I'm not going to want to dwell on this happened a long time ago and et cetera. I'm going to want to dwell on we're here, we're now, let's go forward. Because there are some things I've learned, candidly. I want the system taking care of that because that will muddy us down. And we get into Title IX, We get into legalities. We get into a bunch of things. I'd rather have a system advocating for us in Lincoln and we concentrating here than be a lone voice in us trying to advocate for what we see as our opportunities as the institution. I am in a system with 3 big behemoths and 3 regionals. I have a wonderful system, and I cannot speak enough of the region system. But when they're across the street from the board office in the Capitol, and they're having conversations, and we're asking for $500,000 enhancement to continue our 14th ranked nursing program in the nation, and the University of Kansas is asking for $28.9 million for enhancement in the Cancer Research Institute. My little $500,000, or our campus's $500,000, may get lost. Whereas as we have a system, that advocacy at least has a voice. Because frankly, we're being asked to be accountable to the biggest tuition payer at Wayne State College, and that's the citizens of Nebraska. And so the more we can partner, but address that issue and move on, the stronger we're going to be. So, but I appreciate that. I appreciate that question. Other questions? These are good. Yes, sir.
Hi, Kevin Armstrong with the Foundation. How do you see the President's role in assisting with fundraising and donor relations and community involvement?
Sure, great question. President's role, fundraising, donor relations, community, it's active and it's there. To be a successful president, it's going to take a balancing act. And there are going to be days when someone may look out the window and go, the president's car is not here. That's because there's a priority in working on a situation that can enhance the learning environment for the student. Typically fundraising, meeting in Lincoln, etc. The president and the community, and I'm glad to see the mayor here, we'll be sitting down and having a cup of coffee and talking about what is that continued engagement. You know, I get students in a college community aren't going to always make smart choices. And I get there's going to be maybe a PR issue every so often that we've got to address. But having that open dialogue and having that president active in the community is vital to the continuation. I'm going to expect from the foundation folks, they've got a priority of who I need to be meeting with. I'm going to look for opportunities to make sure I have a solid message for this campus. I'm not going to be the chief development officer. And the foundation has assured me they don't want me to be the chief development officer. But by golly, I'm going to be the chief cheerleader. And that cheerleading is going to include, here's the vision we have moving forward, but here's the traditions that we've built as an institution and how we'll honor those traditions, moving those visions forward. And so I expect a lot of pressing the flesh, a lot of getting to know folks. I have every intention that Kevin will be giving me lists of students that I'll spend Sunday evening calling, giving them a push to enroll here at the institution. All of you will have contacts, and you know what? I can't walk on water, but I'm going to be darn busy. But that's what I'm signing up for, and that's why, as I've interviewed you, I've tried to make sure that that's the energy that you have here so that a message can be promoted and a vision can continue. And the phenomenal momentum you have can be our path to the future. Yes, all the way back first, if it's okay.
Hi, I'm Maureen Carey, and I teach in mass communication.
Mm-hmm.
Our newspaper, television, and radio station are housed in an academic department,
Mm-hmm.
which is different than it being a student activity. I'd just like to know what kind of experiences have you had with student media, and how much access you might give them to talk to them about things, and how in general do you handle media at important stages?
Well, student media is in the office right above my office. I walk upstairs sometimes when I want to get the leak out, knock on the secure door, go into the intersanctum, and have those conversations. I will be very honest, I do not do last minute, I have a deadline. Please, 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 can I call you? No. You're welcome to reach out. Let's postpone that story because I want to meet face to face. When you're in a role of the vice president or a dean or a faculty member, anyone on a campus, and you have the student media there, you want to make sure you can read the nonverbals so that there is an understanding. Because that's our responsibility at that being a learning tool. And it is. And I'm thrilled to hear that it is in an academic department because I know that then there's that understanding. Access to the president, I think, is important. That's the transparency. If I'm not able to comment, I'll say, I'm not able to comment at this time. But the media's got to be able to ask the question. I'll tell you a little quick story. While just in the course of me being in Omaha, the vice presidents of my campus received a text that the president would shortly be announced as the president for Lindenwood University, which is a wonderful opportunity for him. But now you have a president who has an opportunity, and all of a sudden you got a vice president who the next or that weekend gets a call and says, would you be interested in visiting with the campus? And so in my mind, I'm in crisis mode. Oh no, we got a really good school. It's not going down the tubes. You know, I know the legislature's not doing what everybody thinks it should for higher ed. No, the door's not being closed. So I'm thinking of all these things. But I flew under the radar until Tuesday after it was announced here Monday. 4:50, Tuesday afternoon. Got a phone call from the Emporia Gazette, founded by William Allen White. So if you're in journalism, you know William Allen White. And Jesse starts in, Jim, finalists, Wayne State. Oh my goodness. And I'm like, I'm ready. I've got my talking point ready. Let me tell you about Wayne. I'm a graduate. Oh my goodness. Now when you're on campus, you gotta go see this. Now when you're on campus, you gotta go see that. And da-da-da-da-da. And you know what? I got a lot of information. I'm glad I took that phone. I'm glad my personality. I'll talk to him. It was the easiest interview I've ever done. All I had to do was say, so you understand. Yeah, have a great visit. Click. So, but it's the access. The president's got to have an understanding that people are going to ask questions. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, you can use that to your advantage, that if you're detecting there's a rumor, it doesn't hurt to call the media and say, hey, I want to do a story about this, and have those conversations. Okay.
You've kind of answered part of my question. What was it that attracted you to want to apply for the position?
Sure.
Second of all, what do you feel you can do for us as a campus? And the last one is, why do you really want to be president?
Great, great. I'll remember all three of them. What attracted me? I was not in an active search. I got a phone call that said, you've been nominated for the presidency at Wayne State College. Are you interested? And I said, I know about Wayne State College, not just from athletics and having at the tournament level competition, but way back when I started my education in institutions founded on the principles of normal school, I said to a friend of mine in between my last semester in December, what in the world is there in Nebraska? And I had been saying this for a number of months, and he said, put your money where your mouth is and come out with me over winter break. So I did. I spent winter break of 1980 something in Scribner. Got to see smell manufacturing. Lots of opportunities. But I spent some time here, and that developed a passion for the Midwest. From there, I have always valued what institutions founded in the normal traditions offer students. The teaching, the engagement, the fact that I've had students here tell me if I'm not in class, my professor calls me. I haven't had this professor in the department and they've stopped me on the campus and asked how's it going. They're looking forward to seeing me next semester. I haven't even thought of enrolling in that class. That's the environment I've always wanted to continue my career in. So that's what attracted me. Then I read your vision, and it's giving back. Boy, you can't get a better vision than that. That in and of itself is phenomenal. And that's to be celebrated. Then as I've gone through this journey, I've thought to myself, I absolutely love empowering people, and I love empowering entrepreneurial spirit, and I love taking a risk. And as I've had the chance to interview you, I've not had anyone come up and say, don't change a thing, we want to stay just how we are. And it's been the complete contrary. It's been, we're looking for someone to say, go for it. We're looking for someone to say, yeah. That is something I can bring, is that ability to empower, but if it does go south, take the responsibility. I look at it this way, if we're not burning something down or killing, there's not too many things we can't try here or there to see if that betters that experience for the student. And so that's a passion that I think I can bring. And I have forgotten the third part.
Why you really want the job.
Why I really want the job? Because there's that opportunity here, and I feel I'm ready for it. The presidency is open at Emporia State. Say it publicly, not for Jim. It's change, it's opportunity. I'll be very selfish. It's a community that my wife and I have had an opportunity to look at, think about. I have a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old, and I could see them flourishing here. And it keeps me at the root of what I believe helped me as a first-generation college student. So folks that focused on me gave me a swift kick in the tuchus every so often, but really said, we accepted you, we believe in you, and we'll expect that you are successful because we'll partner with you. So. Other questions? Yes?
What are you planning on getting involved in when you come, or if you come to Wayne?
What am I planning on getting involved in? Well, I certainly want to obviously meet the needs of the foundation. And, but I also want to have an opportunity to be involved in the community, the chamber, development. I want to have an opportunity to be involved with the students. I joked about, home football games, and I understand that there'll be some folks that we want to talk with and visit with, but I said, I'm probably going to disappear and be sitting in the student section at some point in the game. So I want to be involved in those opportunities. I want to go out and about to the regions. I'll be very honest with you, I'm a little bit competitive. And if the new chancellor of the University of Nebraska comes up here, I'd be going down there. Not a lot. So I want to do that. We went to dinner in Laurel last night. I loved it. Those are the things that'll keep me energized. But being involved in the fabric of what's here. We want to be involved in the church we join. We want to be involved in the philanthropic organizations. I love being part of Rotary. We want to be involved in any number of different things. Now, Rome wasn't built in a day. I have understood that whoever comes in as the president, there is an agenda already set, and I promise that if I am the president, I will not schedule a single thing without your approval. You can have my executive assistant give you the tips on how to do that. Disable my calendar on my iPhone is the first step. But those type of things, really looking at this is going to be our life. And we have a quality of life we want to continue to have, and that has been interacting and being part of the community. It will not be easy if I am selected to leave Emporia. There will be tears all around. But it will not be tears of what did I do? It will be tears of taking the value added that the folks I interacted with, the community I was part of, gave to myself and my family, and gave me the foundation to take the next step here. Other questions? Yes?
Just one quick one. You said you had some time in academic areas. What is your academic field?
My academic field, my tenure position is in, this is a long title, special education, elementary education, and gifted education. My background is in leadership. And so I have been periodically instructing in our leadership minor. Our leadership minor is on the verge of being moved to a major. We started with 18 students, and now we have an average of 280 students in that minor. And so I've been able to capitalize on my curriculum and my research and my study through my doctorate at the University of Kansas and apply that into that classroom environment. And then for a number of years, we had a college student personnel program. And an example of the need versus the resources going into that. I spent 2 years teaching that program down so that we could reallocate the resources and actually meet the needs of our counselor ed programs, which, as those of you at counselor ed know, ungodly amount of hours have to go into the practicum supervisions and how many of those you can balance in a faculty load. And so those things, but really has continued to be focused on leadership, engagement, those type of things. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the discussion.
Thank you all very much.